Welcome everyone, Farmer Cop here. This is going to be a guide to cover growing spinach for all platforms in the base game. So no mods here. And again, if you're on PlayStation, Xbox, or PC, this will work for you. There are also time codes down below, so feel free to skip ahead to a specific topic if you need something specific or you know part of the process or whatever the case may be. I will also note, other than the harvesting portion of this video, this is going to be the identical guide or very similar guide to green beans and peas. So if you've already watched those videos of mine, don't feel like you need to necessarily watch this one. There's still important stuff here for spinach, and I think you'll still learn something, but just know that they're going to be very similar. And also, if there's anything critically different from what I am putting in this video, it'll be in the first pinned comment down below. And I do talk pretty fast at times, so if you need to, feel free to skip ahead, or excuse me, not skip ahead. Feel free to slow me down down below. You can adjust the YouTube video playback speed to slow me down if I talk too fast for you. So yeah, what we will cover in this video: field prep, or getting your field ready to plant spinach, planting spinach, caring for spinach, harvesting spinach, and what do you do with spinach after it's done. So we are aware that spinach can't be stored, theoretically, but we'll talk about that. I've done a little bit of testing in that realm, so this will cover that as well. But let's move on to the first step, which is field prep. Before we can have field prep, though, we need to have a field. So if we go to the map, I own everything on this map right now, but you just have to go click on a field and you can buy it. I have a video about that out if you want to check that out. But this is the field that we are going to plant on right here. It's kind of a custom field. This whole thing used to be a field, but I set this aside over here to do my tutorial, so I don't have to plant the entire field to do the tutorial. So that's kind of what I got here. But yeah, so field prep. First thing is, this field is already prepped, theoretically speaking, but I'll talk about how we're going to get it to this state in the first place. Let's say we have a harvested crop. We've harvested off of here. Now we're trying to get this crop ready, or this field ready, to do a crop of spinach. Well, we either need to plow or cultivate it. So the reason we would plow it is if it has plowing required. So if we go over to soil composition, I'll turn all of these off for now. If it says needs plowing, which is a red state, I think there's some over here, these fields all need plowing. So if we see that on the field that we're working on, we need to use a plow, subsoiler, or spader. If we go down here, soil cultivation, we need to do one of these things, basically, not maybe just one of them. There's a couple of them that are a little bit different here, but we need to either plow, cultivate, disc, harrow, power harrow, subsoil, or spade the field as part of our field prep. Now, if it says plowing is required, you need to use a plow, a subsoiler, or a spader. Those will get rid of that plowed state. These ones will not, but they will prep the field if you have those. So if plowing is required, make sure you use one of these three, not one of these three here. Now, if you don't want to deal with plowing, or you don't want to deal with that, if you go into the menu, game settings, you can turn periodic plowing to off if you don't want to deal with it. I'll leave it on for now. I'll leave all of these on for now, well, except for crop destruction. You want to probably have crop destruction off, so when you drive over your crops, it doesn't destroy them. Unless you want to play more realistically, then you can turn that on. But yes, if periodic plowing is required, then you need to take care of that. Now, after you plow, one of the things that's going to happen is field stones are going to show up on your field, and then we also need to lime the field. So field stones and lime, you can ignore these steps if you turn these off, but I'll talk about those now. So if we have field stone or lime on here, we need to take care of it. You can see it in the map. It'll say needs lime, that field needs lime. There's no field stones on the map right now, so when I turn stones on, there's not going to be on the field, but if they are on there, you should take care of them. Yellow means small stones, orange means medium stones, and then we have large stones. So that's the different stone types on there. If you don't take care of the stones, it's just going to damage your equipment a little bit faster when it works on the field, but it's not going to affect your yield. However, the liming, if it does say liming required, you do want to use, if we go into the store here, you want to use a spreader such as this one that can spread lime. So this is actually the only base game lime spreader, so you'll want to spread it with this basically and get lime put on your field. I'll do a separate video on how to lime, but that's just what you need to do to get the field prepped. Now we can move on to planting or seeding. So the good news is planting and seeding for spinach can be done with a regular seeder here, which we need some seeds for. So we're going to go in the store. We're going to go to consumables, which actually they're not in here, sorry. Up here to seeds. And we're just going to buy ourselves a pallet of seeds. It doesn't matter which one you buy. All of these will work. And what we're using to plant is a seeder, which is going to be any of these guys in here. You can see the icon for spinach down there, which is great. Now, one thing, if your field, now this doesn't get rid of the plowing state, but instead of having to cultivate your field, you could get a direct drill seeder. So the one we're going to use is this one. It is not a direct drill seeder, but if we have, let's say this one right here, it'll say additionally, this seeder offers the ability to seed directly, which is really nice. So you can use that and then not have to worry about the cultivating. The other thing to note too is this one will only seed, so it'll only plant, whereas some seeders will plant and add a fertilizer state. So the one we're using only adds seeds, not a fertilizer state. But if you get one that does both, that will save you a step later. Now, if we take our seeder over to our, this is the store right here, conveniently placed here. we go over here, we just have to pull up next to our seed bag, hit R, we can refill it. And you can see our seeder is getting loaded up with seeds right now. It's not all the way full, does not matter. And then we need to hit Y, which I'll open up the help menu up there, upper left hand corner. You can see Y is to select the seed. It's currently selected on wheat, so we're going to move it until we get to our spinach right there. Then we're going to hit X to unfold our seeder. Drive over to the field, which is ready to be planted. Once the seeder is completely unfolded, all we have to do is lower it. So I'll hit V to lower that down, it's down on the ground, and then hit B to turn it on. And you can see we are planting our spinach. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. I'm going to go ahead and get this field planted, and then we'll move on to the next step. But that is everything you need to know when it comes to planting. And again, get one with fertilizer, so that way you can save yourself a step later. All right, the field is planted. So one thing we can do right off the bat when it comes to now caring for the field is if our seeder did not put down a layer of fertilizer before this even grows up one state, we can go over it with solid fertilizer, manure, slurry, digestate, liquid fertilizer, whatever fertilizer of our choice we want to use. And we can add our first fertilizer state. Now, you are going to want to add 2 fertilizer states to this to get the best out of your yield. So we'll add one right now, and then we can add the second one next month. Now, if you're applying slurry, manure, or digestate, you can do what's called a double application, and you can apply both of those back to back. Now, if our seeder had already put down a layer of fertilizer on the field, we could not fertilize it just yet. We would have to wait until next month to be able to actually fertilize it. But since we didn't do that, we can throw down our first layer of fertilizer right now, and we'll call it good right there. And now if we go into the menu, take a couple looks, a couple things in here. If we turn everything off just to keep it simple, you can have all this on at once, but I'm trying to keep it simple to show you things. Fertilize, we can now see that we put fertilizer on there. So this is non-fertilized. That's 1 state of fertilizer, and this dark blue is 2 states. So we want to get to this dark state before it's ready to harvest. If we go over to growth now, you can see it is growing. So as it gets to like a darker green like this, it'll slowly get darker and darker in green until it becomes orange, which is ready to harvest. So that's how you can tell how close it is to harvest, as the darker the green is, which is great. So there we go. I'm going to go ahead and skip forward a day, and then I'll bring you guys back in. All right, it's the next day, so now we can go right back out and we can fertilize again. Now, if you have crop destruction set to on, this is not grown enough that you're going to destroy your crops. You'll still be safe to drive on them. As the crops do get older, I think just a state past this will be when they can start getting destroyed by tires. You'll have to make sure you either avoid driving on them to avoid crop destruction, or you have to use narrow tires if a vehicle that you're buying has narrow tires available for it to drive on it and make sure that nothing gets destroyed. Now, you can also see on here as well, in the next part of our journey into caring for our spinach, you can see that there's some weeds starting to pop up on here. So, with that, we need to deal with those weeds. So one thing I'll say as well, you can see them right over here, and you can see down the bottom corner down there, it says weeds small. So there's a few different ways we can deal with the weeds, and I'll talk about that. But that is kind of our next step. And you can turn weeds off completely if you don't want to deal with it. Again, if you go in here into game settings, you scroll down to right over here, you can turn the weeds off if you'd like to make sure you don't have to worry about that. And you can also turn crop destruction on or off on here as well. But since we have the weeds here, there's a couple ways we can get rid of them. I like to use a sprayer with herbicide to get rid of them, because I think that it's the easiest, and the herbicide will kill weeds at any growth point. They're currently small weeds, which is pretty easy to kill. So if we go down here to weeders, we can use different versions in here to kill them. Like this one will kill small grown weeds if you just drive over it. Doesn't use any herbicide, just needs a tractor. This one will do medium weeds. This one's going to do small grown weeds. This one's going to do small grown weeds, and this one's going to do small grown weeds. So unless if they're large weeds, you can't use any of these. That's the downside to those, as if you accidentally forget or you let them get a little bit too grown up, you won't be able to get rid of them with that. But herbicide's always going to be able to do the trick for you. So it's pretty easy to do that. And then after that, crop care is pretty much done. So I'll just demonstrate starting spraying the field. And if you don't spray the field, it's just going to be a yield deficit. So all of the stuff that we're doing is to increase the yield to get the best yield. You don't technically have to do some of this stuff, but you want to try to get the best yield off of your crops. So we'll go across, we'll get all these weeds sprayed, and then I'm just going to keep fast forwarding time until it's time to harvest, and then we'll talk about that. All right, our spinach is now ready to harvest. Now, one thing I did not mention earlier is seasons. If you're playing with seasons on, right now I can plant and harvest anything anywhere. If you have seasons turned to on, I don't know what's going on down here, you can ignore that. But if you go into game settings here and you have seasonal growth turned to yes, if I go to the chart here, you can only plant and harvest things in specific windows. If If we go down to spinach down here, you can plant it here at the beginning of the year. Now, the harvest window is the whole year, which is really nice, actually. And the benefit of that is, and I'll explain this a little bit more in a second, after we harvest the first round of spinach, if we let it grow, it will grow back, and we can get a second harvest during the year. Then next year, we will have to start from the beginning of this video and redo the field prep and move on from there. However, you get 2 harvests off of spinach, which is the main difference between spinach, peas, and green beans. So that's kind of one of the new differences here with that, which is pretty awesome. So I'll leave it on seasons now because it just doesn't matter. We can harvest whenever. Actually, I'm going to turn it off because I want to make sure nothing happens to it, and I want to make sure... and make sure this is not on pause either. If it's on pause, it's not going to grow. And so with that, I should have mentioned the seasons because you can only plant them at specific times of the year. But anyhow, moving on to harvest. We need a specialized harvester, this guy right here. If we scroll down, we'll get specialized harvesters here. So we need this spinach harvester, which is quite expensive. And it holds 35,000 liters at a time of the spinach, and that's all it can do is just harvest spinach. So if I get into it, and also I should note too, every single part of this process, everything we've done so far, everything to care for the crops, including the harvest, all of that can be done by AI workers. So just be aware of that. But if we get out here over to the field, I can just lower this. Oh, I got to unfold it first. Here we go. Unfold my harvester. And then I can turn it on after it's unfolded, and I can start harvesting my spinach, which is awesome. You can see it getting blown into the back there, and we're getting a lot of spinach. Now, it's quite a high yield crop. It doesn't sell for very much, but it is quite a high yield crop. So you'll get quite a bit off of the area that you harvest and all of that. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hire an AI worker to work on this. He'll get used to that and start doing that for you. The other thing you need as you're harvesting, as the harvester gets full, you'll need a trailer like this to transport your spinach and move it wherever it needs to go. And we'll talk about what you can do with spinach and transporting everything like that here in just a little bit. But I'm going to let him work on harvesting, and then I'll bring you guys back in after that. All right, we are done harvesting. See, we offer this little chunk of land. We get 26,000 liters just over that. Now, there's a couple things you can do. You can't put spinach in any sort of base game silo. I'm sure there'll be modded stuff later, but you can't right now. You also can't dump it on the ground. So it won't rot if it's in the back of your harvester in a trailer, but you can't... It's been advertised as a fresh crop that you can't do anything else with, which, to be fair, this is the same for peas and green beans. You can put it in a trailer like this, no big deal, or you can keep it in your harvester. Those are the only ways you can kind of store it, is keep it in one of those places. You can't store it on the ground or in a silo or anything like that, but you could keep it in there. So what do you do with spinach? Well, there's a couple things you can do. One thing I noticed to work really well is if you do productions with it. There is productions that will take spinach, and you can fill those productions up with spinach as kind of a storage for your spinach, and then produce them further. And then if you have any left over, you can do the last thing you can do with it, which is sell it. So if we go down here, we go to prices. If we find spinach on this list right here, oh, it's fine. Scroll down here. Spinach. There's spinach bags. Spinach right here. You can find the best price, and then you can sell it off at one of those places. So. Canning Factory Farmers Market is not too far from us, so I'll sell it right there. But if I take this load of spinach and just go sell it off, you can make a little bit of money on it. Now, you're not going to make a ton on it. It's not worth a ton of money. I am playing an easy difficulty. I should also know, so note that as well for pricing. But you can take it off and sell it if you don't want to use it in productions. But unfortunately, you cannot really store it outside of storing it in your trailer or something like that. It won't go bad if it's in your trailer, from at least what I've noticed. If you guys are noticing any of that, let me know. They could have patched the game or done something different, but in general, it seems to stay just fine in the trailer. So you can see our money's going up in the upper right-hand corner. Get it all dumped out here. And there we go. $7,400, not too bad. Especially off of a small field like that, it's not too bad. And we still have a little bit more on the harvester. So yeah, and then the spinach will start slowly growing back. So if we take a look in the menu, actually, one thing here as well, if we go over to soil composition, you can see it's not fertilized. The only thing I would do while you're waiting for your next fertilization, or excuse me, your next harvest to happen, is I would take your fertilizer spreader and I would spread more fertilizer on there. That way you actually get that rocking and rolling for you. Otherwise, it's going to be the same. Otherwise, you just need to fertilize once right here. And then you're just going to wait for the next month, and then you can fertilize again. And then if you have any weeds or anything like that pop up, just take care of them. Follow the crop care section of this video again to make sure everything is taken care of on your spinach for the next harvest, and then harvest it a second time and get your money again. So that's kind of the nice thing about it, is you get kind of 2 harvests off it every year. Then the following year, you'll have to do the field prep step and move on from there. But there you guys go. That is everything you need to know about spinach in Farming Simulator 25. If you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button up on the screen to join the Farmer Cop channel and turn your notification bells so you don't miss any future videos I may post. This has been Farmer Cop. Thank you guys for coming and watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.